Now we're going to be looking at trapezoids. Now trapezoids, I see two sides that are parallel, which we call the bases. You guys can see the top and the bottom. Only two sides are parallel, the other two are not. But we have to find the area of each. Now we could do something. Um, let's say I have a trapezoid like this. I can break it into two triangles and a rectangle in the center. I know how to get the area of rectangles. I know how to get the area of triangles. So we can do that. However, sometimes we don't know all the measurements. For example, if I look at number 12 and I break it down here, I see that rectangle in the center is 5.5 by 6, so I can do that one. But on my triangle, how big is this? On my other triangle, how big is this? Right? This way I cannot do it. I don't know all the measurements. So let me show you guys how how the area, the formula for the area got created. Pretty cool thing. Let me show you guys how it gets done. So the way we do this, again, we focus on my two bases. If you notice on the base on the top, people sometimes call it base 1. And in this case, it's going to be 4. You guys can see it's 4 squares. Now the base at the bottom, remember this is my base 1. Now the base at the bottom, you guys can see it here. So I'm going to call it base 2. We can count the squares. It's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In fact, let me write them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we can count the bases. And then we can count the height. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So here I'm going to say h for the height. The height is 6. All right. Now, let me do something really quick. Let me cut my trapezoid here. Let me cut it in the middle. So right in between the two parallel lines, I'm going to do a line in the middle, right in between. You guys see how it created two trapezoids, a yellow one and a green one. Now, what I'm going to do, I color it different colors because I want you guys to see what's about to happen. Now, the trapezoid on the top, the yellow one, let's say I was able to come over and cut it. Let's say this was a piece of paper and I was going to cut it and I rotate it around this corner. So basically, I'm going to flip it over. So let's say I was to cut it. Let's say this was papered. I was to cut it and flip it over. You guys will see that it will be like that. Let me come back again. It was like this. Let's say I cut it and it goes like that. Now, interesting though, interesting is that now if you look at the shape, I'm going to highlight it here with red. You see it? That's a parallelogram. Don't we know how to do area parallelograms? Now, one thing, look at the base of the parallelogram. I have the 10, that was one of my bases, but now I have 11, 12, 13, and 14. Look, all I do is add the bases, right? Base 1 plus base 2. Now that's going to be the long side of my parallelogram. And then what's the height of it? I remember the height of my trapezoid was 6, but look at the height of this parallelogram. It's only 3 squares. So the height gets cut in half. So all I did was base 1 plus base 2, I add them. I noticed that the height gets cut in half, so I'm going to go the height divided by 2. And then what do we do with parallelograms? Didn't I say last time parallelograms treated like a rectangle? So just multiply those, and that will give me the area. In this case, I have 10 plus 4, and then the height is 6 divided by 2. So I have 14 times 3. Now 14 times 3, I can easily do that, right? 14 times 3 is 42. So the area of this parallelogram here is 42. If I go back on my shape, the area of this trapezoid is 42. So remember, all I did starting with the trapezoid, I cut it in half. The top half, I cut it and then flipped it, put it at the bottom to create a parallelogram. And then for me to find the area, I'm going to add the bases. In one parenthesis, I'm going to add the bases. In another parenthesis, I'm going to go the height divided by 2 and then multiply each parenthesis. And that's it. Okay, so having that said, let's take a look at our work here. What I'm going to be doing, find the area of here. What are the two measurements that are parallel? Well, the bases are 9 and 4.2. So in one of my parentheses, I'm going to go 9 plus 4.2. My other parentheses is the height. I can see this dotted line here, this 3.1. So I'm going to go 3.1 divided by 2. Because remember, I have to go the height divided by 2. Okay. So my first parenthesis, 9 plus 4.2. That is 13.2. My second parenthesis, 3.1 divided by 2. Don't round anything. My answer here is 1.55 for the second parentheses. Don't round anything. Now, just multiply the two parentheses. So 13.2 times 1.55. And my answer is 20.46. Looking at the instructions, it says find the area. It doesn't say anything about rounding. So don't round. Okay, now let's take a look at number 12. The bases, 5.5 and 11.9. So I'm going to go 5.5 plus 11.9. That's one of my parentheses. For the other parentheses, I'm going to go 6 divided by 2, right? The height divided by 2. And I can see the height right here is 6. So for the first parentheses, 5.5 plus 11.9, that is 17.4. The second parenthesis, 6 divided by 2, that's going to be 3. Now multiply the two parentheses, so 17.4 times 3 is going to give me 52.2. Measurements will be centimeters to the second power, or square centimeters, people say. Okay, so if you know how to do the area of that, let's take a look at number 13. Find the missing measurement, round your answer to the nearest tenth. The answer, not the work. So if I'm working things out, do not round anything. Round the answer, so at the very end. Okay, so the two bases, the two measurements that are parallel are these two. One of them I'm going to call X, because I don't know how big it is. I know for my parentheses, the first parentheses, I have to add the bases, so X plus 3.8. My second parentheses, I look at the height, and I have to go 3 divided by 2, right? The height divided by 2. And this is going to equal to 19.2, which is the area. Okay, my first parentheses, X plus 3.8. Nothing I can do, right? I cannot combine that. So I'm just going to call it X plus 3.8. My second parentheses, 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. And this is equal to 19.2. Okay, couple things we can do. Let me tell you guys the one that will be pretty annoying, but I will still mention it. One way we can get rid of parentheses, here it is, distributing the 1.5, the number that is by itself, 1.5 times x, and 1.5 times 3.8. If we use a distributive property, it will get rid of parentheses. That is doable, but not the only way. Another way we can do is, why don't I get rid of the 1.5? I notice that the two parentheses are being multiplied, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So let me divide both sides by 1.5. Because on the left side, I'm going to have x plus 3.8. I don't use parentheses on this one because it's the only set. On the left side, I have x plus 3.8. But here on the right side, 19.2 divided by 1.5, it is 12.8. Don't round anything yet. Okay, now to get the x by itself, the plus 3.8, let me move it to the other side as a minus 3.8. Now 12.8 minus 3.8 is 9. So x is equal to 9. So let me do a recap. What did we do? I do one parenthesis where I add the bases. Another parenthesis where I go height divided by 2. And this is equal to the area. I worked the parentheses that I could work, right? 3 divided by 2, I could work it. The other parentheses, x plus 3.8, there was nothing I could do. Then I divided both sides by 1.5 and then subtracted 3.8 to get the x by itself, and I got that x is equal to 9. Let's take a look at number 14. The two bases, the two sides that are parallel, are going to be, let me add those things up. The question mark, again, let me call it x. So I'm going to go 0.7 plus x. I'm adding the two sides that are parallel, the two bases. Now the height is this dotted line in between, which is 2. So I have to go the height divided by 2. And this is equal to the area, which is 3. Okay, my first parenthesis, 0.7 plus x, nothing I can do. The second parenthesis, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And all of this is equal to 3. Now, if I divide by 1 to get rid of this parentheses, I get 0.7 plus x is equal to 3. Right? 3 divided by 1 is still 3. Now, let me minus 0.7 on each side to get the x by itself. Now 3 minus 0.7 happens to be 2.3. Beautiful.